You've had Wendy's Nugs dipped in sauce, but have you had them covered in sauce? Wendy's new Saucy Nugs take the crispy and spicy nugs you love and turn them up to 11. Choose between flavors like buffalo, garlic parm, honey barbecue, and of course, the spicy variations of all of those. Or if you're a real heat seeker, try the spicy ghost pepper only on Wendy's signature spicy nugs. I dare you. That's 7 delicious ways to try the nugs you already love. Pick a flavor, grab some extra napkins, and prepare to nug like you have never nugged before. For a whole new way to nug, it's got to be Wendy's at participating U.S. Wendy's. Welcome to Andy and Ari on by Wendy's, of course, and those lovely saucy nugs. We are here in Mobile, Alabama. It is Senior Bowl week. The players are already here. They start practicing tomorrow, and it is a big, big job interview. We're going to hear from Walter Nolen later in the show, former Ole Miss and Texas A&M defensive tackle, who is basically going, I mean, he's just comes right out and says it. He wants to do what Aaron Donald did here, which is cement himself in the first round.
Yeah, that'd be a pretty good trajectory. Two things. One, amazing backdrop. There was a ship that was like...
Watching Ari try to imagine the physics of a container ship from Oslo, Norway, it was spectacular.
That was from Norway?
You could see the gears in his brain turning. Yes.
Did that ship come from Norway?
It said Oslo on the back.
That's electric.
It's been through a fjord.
Yeah. Later on in the offseason, we're going to get into a long debate about whether or not there's actually aliens that look like people that can come up with that, because how you can make that thing float is pretty incredible. And then secondly, that Wendy's ad really hit me. You know, I've been starving all morning.
Oh, yeah.
My
maybe hitting the saucy nugs after this.
5 Hershey's Kisses this morning, so that's how we're getting the day started. But I'm excited. There's a lot happening over the weekend, Andy, and we're here in Mobile, Alabama, and, you know, I guess we're kind of getting into combine mode, but still feels like it's the season. It hasn't hit me yet. I don't know.
We're hitting up to these guys basically with exit interviews. And, you know, we talked to Walter Nolen. We had a great chat with Xavier Restrepo that we're going to play later in the week. The Miami receiver, who's just, I mean, what a joy to be around.
Yeah, just and very underrated as just a player, you know.
Yeah.
And I know that, I don't know, Miami also kind of seems to be like one of those places that just is the recipient of hate from like we should do like a hate rankings of like who are the most hated.
You know what? We were trying to figure out what we were going to do for a show next week, and we weren't exactly sure. That's it. That's the hate ratio. That's it.
Yeah, I don't want to give it away all now if we're going to do a whole show on it, but there's just seems to be like 5 programs that just like get like random casual fans.
Yeah, and you don't
to grind their teeth, and Miami's definitely one of them.
Like, yeah, because some of them, like Notre Dame, you kind of get because people grew up and they were the only ones on national TV and all that. But some of them, it just seems almost irrational. Like, you mention them and people are like, oh, this is terrible. I hate them. Like, why do you hate them? Like,
yeah.
And the thing is, it's just like anything else. There are nice people at places. There are people who are not so nice at places. And like, I defy you to meet Xavier Restrepo, 5-year player for Miami, grew up in South Florida, loving the Canes. Like, you can't meet him and dislike him.
Well, I mean, I just like think too, it's just the way that he played the game was so pure. Like, he's just a very good player and somebody I'm fairly confident in thinking is going to have a very long and successful NFL career. So it was good to have him on the show. We're going to be here for the next few days, and I think we're going to have a bunch of people on and hopefully, you know, rub some shoulders with some people.
Can we expand the hate rankings? It doesn't have to be football, right? Can Duke basketball be in there too?
I mean, if you want.
I don't know.
Your name's first on the show. You tell me.
It's just alphabetical and by age. That's all. I think we should do just in college sports in general, the hate rankings. Because I think Duke basketball may be more hated than most football programs.
And I think what we're going to do is we're going to use it from the litmus test of like, if you're an Arizona State fan, because it's like, they're like Switzerland. They're all the way out. they're like in the Southwest somewhere. And it's like, do Arizona State fans hate Miami? Like, I feel like a random fan base has an emotion towards something for no rational reason at all. And that's how I'm going to go about making my rankings. So if you want to put the basketball teams on there, that's fine. I don't know anything about college basketball, so you hold my hand on that one. But
you know, people hate Duke. People hate when they slap the floor and all that stuff.
Yeah, are they the only ones who slap the floor?
No, they're not the only ones who slap the floor. I was
going to
say that's the thing. Like, that's associated with Duke, even though. But the reason I thought about that is JC in the chat said universal hate Maryland, and that's because of basketball. That's not because of football.
Maryland basketball is like
people hate them.
Oh, Juan Dixon was a badass.
Juan Dixon was.
Yeah, I see. I knew that one. Okay, well, you can help me with the basketball ones. Arizona State fan in the chat. You are Switzerland, pal. If you guys would have won a few more games, you might have, crossed over some.
Well, that's
some
Kenny
weird,
Dillingham may make them a different country. But JC also in the chat talking about our main topic today, the newsiest topic we have, because over the weekend, Penn State swiped Ohio State's defensive coordinator. Jim Knowles is headed to State College from Columbus. They had the celebration in Columbus of the national championship team. And within like 30 seconds after it ended, we found out that Jim Knowles is going to Penn State.
Yeah, so there's two ways to tackle this. Do you want to take it from the Penn State angle first? Because I think that we should congratulate and talk about the winner of a big battle.
JC handily provided us with some Penn State talking points. The Andy Kotelnicki versus Jim Knowles, 21 possessions, 0 touchdowns situation vanishes. That also includes Kansas versus Oklahoma State a few years ago, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. But also is Penn State's defense now better than it was with Tom Allen or Manny Diaz? I don't know. I think they were really good with both of those guys. And obviously Manny Diaz went on to become Duke's head coach, had a great first year at Duke. Tom Allen is going to Clemson, where he's got family down there. I think, I don't know. He's been in Indiana. He's been in the South. He's been a lot of places. So I don't know if that necessarily matters, but I think he's going to do great at Clemson. I think Jim Knowles will do just fine at Penn State.
Well, yeah. Him doing fine is not my
right. He has to be dominant at Penn State. Yeah,
but I think that there are two ways of looking at it. And somebody tweeted this at me yesterday as I was driving from Dallas to Mobile in the rain. Not a highly suggested move on my part, but somebody tweeted at me and brought back a previous talking point that we had on the show to me on Twitter and said, "Do you still think that Penn State is not playing for national championships?" Because if you go back to the discussion that we were having about James Franklin at the time in which he got his 10-year extension, they weren't winning at the highest level when they gave him that, which to me I thought was an implication of 10 wins, 11 wins is enough. And now when you're starting to up the stakes, and I don't think the contract stuff is out yet, but there's no way that Ohio State lost him over this.
$3.1 million a year, which this wasn't over money. Ohio State was offering something similar. Oklahoma was offering something similar. And I don't think it went that far down the road with Oklahoma. I think they viewed that as a long shot.
2016 Fiesta Bowl, when Ohio State played Clemson, either I or my coworker was writing a story about, I think it was Brent Venables at the time, about being the first coach or assistant coach that was bordering $1 million a year in salary.
Yes.
And we haven't even made it a decade past then, and now we're at this point. I mean, that's an absurd amount of money.
It's crazy because they always said if you have to pay the players, well, there's no money for anything else. They keep finding money. Think about this. So Jim Knowles was going to, no matter what he decided, was going to be the highest paid defensive coordinator in college football and probably the first $3 million coordinator anywhere. So that happened. And then Shane Beamer got extended at South Carolina. So that's, he got a raise, a couple $1 million a year, and they put themselves on the hook for more if things don't work out. I think they have plenty of money. I think they were lying to us when they said if they had to pay the players, they wouldn't have any money.
3.1 mil a year for a coordinator is a pretty big investment. So I think that's
there are power conference head coaches who make less than that,
right.
1 or 2.
So, but does that change your viewpoint of Penn State's demands? Does a move like this, first of all, I think you can make the case that Penn State has the 2 best coordinators in college football, or the best coordinator tandem, I should say. So you add that together with James Franklin, and it creates and cultivates an environment where you're not paying all this money to finish third in the Big Ten anymore. You're paying this money to go get over the top and win the whole thing. So, Penn State has always had very good defenses. I don't know that I look at their defensive performances over the years and think, hey, that's the issue. But at the same time, too, you're talking about a defensive coordinator who had a wealth of talent. Let's not forget. It's a lot easier to, scheme around Caleb Downs than it is other places. But, they put it into a position where that was maybe the best defense Ohio State's had in the last decade.
He also didn't have nearly as much talent at Oklahoma State.
And they were also really
very
good.
Dominant defense there.
So from that aspect, though, Penn State, I think that you could make the case, and maybe this is a column, of like, okay, we're starting to step up into the realm of expectation that didn't, in my opinion, exist coming into this year.
Well,
and
I
that's
think
an exciting
you win a
thing for
couple
them.
playoff games, you go to the semifinals, and yeah, now it's all right. What can you do past that? And it's no longer you are blocked by Ohio State and Michigan in your own division. You're not blocked by them anymore. In fact, you lost to Ohio State and still played for the Big Ten championship and still went to the semifinals. So the path is open to Penn State. Now, as Justin pointed out in the chat, the defense isn't the problem. And some other folks have pointed out in the chat, hey, does Jim Knowles play receiver? Because that seems to be a bigger issue. Like, they've had to replace the defensive coordinator multiple times, and they seem to find somebody who's excellent, and they always seem to have excellent players like Dennis Sutton's coming back.
Kind of funny to think that we're like, oh my God, they're paying a coordinator $3.1 million. And then like 3 days ago, we were talking about Jeremiah Smith was commanding $4.5 million.
I will say 10 years ago, this is not something Penn State would have done. Penn State would not have set the market.
So you think this is an evolution in the program?
I think this is Pat Kraft being the athletic director for a few years now. And really, he came in saying, I would like for Penn State to try to act like it is serious about football. Penn State did not act the same way Ohio State did. It did not act the same way Alabama did, the same way Georgia did before Pat Kraft. It was Sandy Barber was a different AD, and she did not feel like football was that big of a priority. I don't think, at least, and that is the sense that the coaching staff got too. Well, now they have a guy who played college football at Indiana, who appreciates college football, and is was willing to open the checkbook. Now, I think that willingness to open the checkbook, as you pointed out,
comes with
serious expectations.
Yeah. And you know what? Good for them. My number one thing with Penn State's always been like, if you want better, then pursue better. And the fact that you're doing this, I think, is a sign of things to come, because there is a correlation between investment and commitment and results. Right. It's the same thing like with dieting, right? Or anything else in life. Yeah. If you want to lose weight, you got to commit to it. If you want to make more money, you've got to commit to your plan on how to, this is what you do.
It's like my favorite trainer on Peloton, Selena Samuela, says, you can't be mad about the results you didn't get from the work you didn't do. Like,
is that person a man or a woman?
She is a badass former boxer.
She does that while you're riding a bike?
I don't ride a bike. She says it while you're running.
Is she running while she's saying it?
She is running. Yes.
Yeah. I did a spin class once, and like at the end of the spin class, there was like a 5-minute reflection where I was like, wind down and think about all the things that ail you. I'm like, lady, I'm just trying to lose weight. Can we just pedal the bike and get the hell out of here? It's like, I don't know. Does that stuff hit you, the motivational like talks while you're running?
I remember it, so it must.
Were you just like, oh, I'm going to run faster now because she said that?
No, I run faster when she says run faster. I run slower when she says run slower, and I run uphill when she says run uphill.
I just
follow instructions.
I need somebody in my face yelling, run, fatty, run. Well, but I don't know why I took it there, but
Pat Kraft, though, is saying that in his own way.
Run, fatty, run.
Yeah, right. Win, Richie, win. Because you are rich at Penn State. You do have resources. You do have money. You do care about football. And it is completely within the realm of possibility for Penn State to compete for national championships. We saw it this year. It's not like they are so far away from Ohio State or so far away from these teams that have been winning national titles. And like we keep saying, you're probably not going to see a roster as loaded as Ohio State's was this past year. So yeah, now's your time, Penn State.
I do have this internal debate with myself. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what it is with Penn State, where on one hand, it's like, okay, they were maybe a 5 minutes of real-time performance away from playing for a national championship.
Oh, yeah.
This year, right? So that is like,
Aller doesn't throw the interception.
Yeah, they were going OT maybe, and you have a chance.
Field goal if they just run the
and
ball
they beat the crap out of Penn,
field goal range.
Out of Notre Dame for an entire half. So that's the first half, which is like clear, identifiable, statistical, results-driven improvement, right? Like there's no doubt about it. But then on the other hand, it's like, oh, wait a minute, is this Penn State team the same team that it's been for the past 5 years, but actually was put in an advantageous position from their path to the playoff and wasn't really that much better than they've been?
Yeah.
And I don't know what the answer is. I'll let the chat decide or what you think. But like for me, It's like, I do think that Penn State was very good this year. They had the best defensive lineman in the country, in my opinion, and Abdul Carter.
Yeah, Daniel Jeremiah, NFL Network, has him projected as the number 1 pick in the draft.
And it's just like, okay, I don't know. I'm conflicted on how to grade them as, like, going into the offseason. Like, how do you grade Penn State's year? Obviously, the fans enjoyed it, and they deserved all the joy that came along with it. But, like, again,
I
still lost their 2 biggest games of the year, right?
You grade it pretty much the same way you had been grading them, as they're still not quite where they want to be. Now, it felt like they went farther because they did go farther. They had not made the Final Four. They were a program that, had the 12-team playoff existed, would have made it 6 times since
the number 1
2016.
team. They're the number 1 bubble team.
Yeah. Yeah. So they would have been in the mix. And this is something to think about. And you and I have talked about doing some program rankings in the offseason. And I think one thing we should consider is, in the past 10 years, if this playoff system existed, how many people would have made the playoff? Because as we learned in this one, it's a small sample size, but Ohio State, which would not have made it, ends up winning the whole thing. Notre Dame, which you think they would have voted differently, but they didn't vote.
I don't think they would have. They would have.
But, yeah. Well, but they didn't vote that way. Notre Dame would not have made it.
Which is what makes that exercise hard, because you don't know how they would have ranked them in another
system.
But
the one that would have been 8th would not have made it.
Right.
Like, Ohio State this year would not have made it.
1,000% would not have made it.
So,
right? 1,000%?
I think so, yes. So all those Penn State teams that didn't make it, that would have made, because remember, we're talking about, they were finishing like 5th and 6th. So this would have been teams that had a home game, that would have, like, they might have made it to the national title game in some of those years. We just don't know.
Well, they just had the fortune of playing teams that weren't as far as they are in their build.
Yes.
So, like, that's the thing. It's like, it's not like to say that teams had an easy path. It's not fair. But
they had an easier path. Like Ohio State had the hardest path.
I don't want to take a crap on the teams that they've played. Like SMU, I thought was a very good football team this year and deserved to be in.
Yeah.
Boise, again, one of the best players in college football, tough team. But, like, Penn State didn't have to beat, like, Georgia. You know what I mean? And Georgia wasn't that great this year, but they still didn't have to.
Notre Dame had to beat them. Yeah.
And it's just, like, to me, like, this debate, and we had it with Notre Dame too, of like, did Notre Dame's win over Indiana end the postseason big wins drought? Like,
the Georgia one did.
Like, so, but like, if you're a Penn State fan, you are happy about the results of this season, although probably still in pain with the way that the Notre Dame game ended. But do you feel like the ails that troubled you? Like, that's the thing too. It's like
no, you're still saying, can we please have some wide receivers? Can we please have an explosive?
But are you still
offense?
saying, can we please beat Ohio State?
Yes.
Like, is that, or like, do you feel better about it? Because like that's another thing too. Like the rebirth off season too. It's like Ryan Day.
The question is the next iteration of Ohio State going to look anything like this one? It'll still be really good.
Who are the coaches that righted their wrongs the most this year? Like, I think Ryan Day is probably the clear answer there, because
Marcus Freeman,
I think, is another one.
But I think James Franklin too.
Did Dabo Sweeney? I think you could put him on that list, maybe, in terms of off the field.
Well, if you've been listening to me at all, the trajectory for me on Dabo is up. So,
but like, so where do you put James Franklin on that list? Is what I'm getting at. Like, is James Franklin on the righted the wrongs list? Or did circumstance blind us from the fact that nothing's changed?
He's incrementally better because he got to the Final Four. The underlying issues he still has to prove he can do something about, which is go get some freaking receivers.
But then but also too, like, how do you beat Ohio State?
With some freaking receivers.
And how else? By investing in the program and paying big money for big boy salaries and taking their defensive coordinator. Like, I mean, and like, okay, now let's go to the Ohio State side of this.
Yes.
When the Jim Knowles Oklahoma stuff came up, Oklahoma fans were, rightfully getting kind of excited. And there was this like online battle between Ohio State and Oklahoma fans of like, why would he take a demotion? Okay. And with Oklahoma, like, I feel like if Jim Knowles would have gone to Oklahoma for a big money raise, that would have made sense because of region, his past, where
but it's not he's from the Northeast.
No, I know, but he might have liked living in Oklahoma. Like, it would have been a change to another blue blood program. Okay,
here's the thing about that, and this is where it's a little bit different, because the job at Penn State as a defensive coordinator and the job at Oklahoma as a defensive coordinator are two different jobs. James Franklin is not a defensive guy. He's never called a defense as far as I know. Like he's not going to be over your shoulder constantly. It is Brent Venables' defense at Oklahoma. So if you're a defensive coordinator used to some autonomy, which you had at Ohio State, which you had at Oklahoma State, which you had at Duke before that, you're probably not going to go to the place where the guy above you is a very accomplished defensive coordinator.
Yeah, and that's a good point. I just mean optically.
Right.
Optically, I think going from Ohio State to Oklahoma would make sense. The thing I think that is rubbing people the wrong way, and we have to call what it is that Ohio State is a week removed, literally today, from winning a national title, and he's going to an in-division past in-division rival that isn't on the same playing field at the moment. And that confuses people. So the question you have to ask yourself is why? And, Letterman Row has a story up right now. That's our On3 Ohio State site, theorizing that one of the things that, has been an online rumor for the past 6 months. It's not like a hidden secret that he and Larry Johnson were butting heads on strategy in terms of the defensive line and stuff. But it's like Larry also Johnson, it's like
the longtime defensive line coach who, by the way, spent most of his career at Penn State.
But it's like it does feel like, and I don't know what the answer is, but it does feel like there's something a little bit deeper happening here than just, he got a raise, because we both know sitting here that Ohio State wasn't going to lose him over money.
No.
And they would be prepared to pay him, especially considering the fact that, they just accomplished what they did. Like the continuity, it's like, because to me, like Ohio State seems very well built to continue to compete at that level for the next 5 years. And it seems likely, the way it did in 14 too, that they'll win another one in the next few years. And it's like, if you're Jim Knowles, it's like, what are you doing? And I think that rubs people the wrong way.
Yeah.
And it's,
I mean, an Ohio State fan is going to go, why on earth would you leave us
for them?
And it's not the same when it's your job. You think about it differently.
Yeah.
If you feel like you would be in a better position, or maybe you didn't get along with the people you were working with and you wanted to work with some other people,
or maybe get more leeway in terms of doing things your way.
Exactly.
Like, I mean, it's like the thing that bothers people, just to go back though, is just like, it worked. Like whatever you're upset about at Ohio State, like it worked. Like your defense was awesome and people think you're a god. So like, I don't know, maybe from a personal fulfillment standpoint, there's something there.
Where
but
Ohio
like,
State was when he got hired, because they fired Kerry Coombs because they gave up so many big plays.
Defense stunk.
They were it was
really
for their
standard.
Yeah,
but that was the Alabama.
But they were
tough
basically
Portland
a middle of the pack defense because they couldn't stop giving up big plays.
Yeah, and you know what? It worked. So like, I'm sure more will come to light in terms of like what did this. But like, I did not have Ohio State defensive coordinator job open on my bingo card. That said, like we said on the show last week, when you win national championships and you have results out there, everybody on your team, whether it be a player or a coach, is a more sought after, more coveted asset. And it's like, dude, it's like, how much can Ohio State, like how many corners can Ohio State defend before stuff like this happens?
Well, I mean, that's
like,
the thing.
Pay him. It's like someone's going to leave.
Yeah, every time you're successful, everybody wants to take a piece of what you got.
Yeah.
Now, the thing is, Ohio State has the ability to go out and say, hey, who would like to come coach Caleb Downs for lots of money? So they're going to be able to pick who they want pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they'll be able to find a defensive coordinator that, is qualified. The thing that stinks is when you have somebody in your system already that had something that worked, having to retool something that you didn't feel you were going to need to retool is just another offseason step.
If you're going to have to reboot, this is the time to reboot, because how many, like we mentioned, Caleb Downs, was it 2 starters coming back from that defense?
Yeah, Igman Nosen's coming back, the defensive back. I don't have to look that up. I don't know how many, but like, they're losing a lot of people. And also, too, it's kind of like the same thing like with Michigan last year.
Yeah.
You won a national championship, like, you're good for a little bit. Like, and I know that Ohio State fans
doesn't work that way at Ohio State, are you?
But I'm saying, like, if you lose, like, if you make the trade before the national title happens and say, okay, Ohio State fans, you're going to win the national title this year, but the consequence of this is you're going to lose everybody, and your team is going to have to, reload a little bit. I think everybody automatically takes that deal, right? So you revel in the national title. what do they say when a breakup happens? Like, don't be sad that it's over. Be happy that it happened. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. But like, I thought to me, the more significant thing in this whole storyline wasn't what happened at Ohio State. It's what is Penn State trying to be? And that's the most important thing. Because like, you now go get a receiver. But I thought it was a nice step in the right direction in terms of, commitment to winning and paying the money to show that you're serious about raising the bar on that.
Yeah, and I think they are serious. I think Penn State has shown that over the last few years. You know what? If you're a Penn State or an Ohio State fan, there is one thing you can agree on. AxiaTime.com. I've got my Odysseus 2 watch on. If you would like to commemorate either Penn State or Ohio State's trip to the college football playoff, go to AxiaTime.com. They have custom timepieces that commemorate all of the playoff teams' trips to the playoff because they are the official timepiece of the college football playoff and of the Heisman Trophy. Also, if you're an Ohio State fan, they have some beautiful new Ohio State National Championship watches that include confetti from the field. We actually saw them collecting it.
I had the picture. I sent it to River of the guy scooping the confetti. So,
so if you want to go and look at these beautiful watches, AxiaTime.com is the place to go. They are Swiss made, automatic. They're beautiful. Everywhere I go, people ask me, where'd you get that? And the level of build on this thing, you're normally paying 3 times more, 5 times more, 10 times more if you're, in Ari's circles that he runs in.
Yeah.
But you don't need to.
That's right. You don't need to, because I overspent.
You can get a beautiful watch at AxiaTime.com and rep your team at the same time. So whether you're an Ohio State fan, a Penn State fan, Arizona State, Boise State, they're all there, but they're selling out fast. So AxiaTime.com, check it out, and everybody will ask,
I like the strap.
Where you got yours? Oh yeah, the orange pops.
Is that rubber?
The orange pops. Yeah, and I also have a stainless steel, and I also have a leather one. Yeah. So yeah, it is outstanding, and you can dress it up, dress it down, however you want to do it. AxiaTime.com. All right, before we move on to Walter Nolen, because we have a very fun interview with Walter Nolen, I want to go back to what we talked about on Friday afternoon. We did a little bonus show when the Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate tampering rumors came out. Pete Nakos did a story about, somebody was offering Jeremiah Smith $4.5 million a year to go somewhere else. He very quickly shut that down, said, I'm staying at Ohio State. We had a longer discussion about Carnell Tate, who was rumored to be offered $1 million to go somewhere else. He has shut that down since and said he's staying at Ohio State. I do think Ohio State is maybe the one place that can pull this off, where you have a guy like Carnell Tate who really could go to more than 100 different programs and be wide receiver 1. But he can stay at Ohio State, understanding that Jeremiah Smith's going to be there, and know that it's not going to hurt his draft stock, because they've got 2 or 3 examples of wide receiver 2 being a first-round draft pick.
Well, I mean, the thing that's so crazy about the Carnell Tate situation, Andy, to me, is this, like, his position scarcity and the demand for somebody. I mean, how many teams are go get a receiver? Go. I mean, literally, I feel like the notion that he's only worth $1 million is wrong. Like I'm not an agent, I'm not Ari Gold, I'm just Ari Wasserman, but like I do feel like that seems low considering how good he is, one, and how many people need him.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty good scenario for Ohio State. The more players you can bring back from last year's team, the better you're going to be, especially when you're going to be breaking in a new young quarterback who may be the new face of the entire thing. So like I think it's a big recruiting win for Ohio State, and kind of interested in what it would have been like had it not worked out that way in terms of.
And that's the thing, this is the new big recruiting win, right? When you can retain a guy like Ohio State last year, where you retain people who would have been in the NFL, who would have been kind of mid-round draft picks, who want to come back because they either want to do something else in college or they want to try to raise their draft stock, or can you retain the person who has some eligibility left, who really could go somewhere else and probably have a bigger role for more money, but they like playing for you and they like playing for the coach, the position coach. And, we had Brian Hartline on the show right before the national title game. He's the best at what he does. Let's be, I don't know that there's some good wide receivers coaches out there. He's the best one.
Yeah, I mean, we did break down on Friday that all 5 receivers that they have playing next year are top 50 recruits nationally.
Yeah.
So they're gonna. There's no. That's the funniest thing about the Ohio State thing too, is that like of any position they could afford to lose somebody.
Right.
It's like that's the position.
Let it go.
And those are and that's the position group that everybody needs the most. It's almost like, also too, it's like, could you imagine if this Jim Knowles discussion was the other way with this?
Yeah.
And it was Knowles stays and Carnell Tate leaves. Like that to me would be scarier. Like, and then that's not to diminish the importance of Jim Knowles, but like that's
Carnell
just
Tate saying, "I trust you guys," because again, he could have a bigger role anywhere else because he's not with Jeremiah Smith anywhere else.
How often do you think we're going to see players win a national title somewhere, have eligibility left, and then leave if they have a role on the team? Like, it just seems odd.
Yeah,
and it's probably going to happen.
Yeah,
but it's just like when you think about what being a national champion at Ohio State means for your future, and fortifying or creating and maintaining a legacy there. Like, he's going to be fine financially forever as a result of his role on this team. Right. And I know that sounds stupid, and it's probably true at other places, but like, why would you bounce right now, especially considering the fact you were a productive player on last year's team? You're losing Egbuka, and you're being coached by a guy who has more first-round draft picks than maybe most other position coaches do who have been in the
we need to count this up. I think Brian Hartline may have more first-round draft picks in the last 6 or 7 years than most programs.
Brian Hartline is like at the center of like the debate between like, not again, he's gonna watch this and like clip it and send it to me and call me an asshole, but like it's like,
we need to be like, how you know Riley Leonard's mom would send him the "you suck" text?
Yeah.
Do we need to neg
Brian Hartline a little Brian, bit? I think you're an incredible coach, but here's
terrible cook, but a great coach. I don't know.
Just like I feel like, you know, you were given a little of a gift with Jeremiah. Okay, can we just call it what it is? Like,
he had to get him.
No, he got him. But I'm saying, like,
him to come.
In terms of like the developed here slogan that Ohio State likes to use, I'm not saying he wasn't developed and you didn't do an incredible job with him. But I also think that the starting point was probably further down the line. He's the first receiver off the board, no matter where he plays in college. You know, and that's not to diminish what Ohio State's done, because I also think too that part of that developmental process is the ability to analyze and break down properly who you want, because Ohio State's in a position at the receiver position specifically as a result of Brian Hartline's dominance to choose and pass on guys that are top 100 players they don't think have the goods to compete. So, you know, part of it too is the selection of these guys that he's been very good at. But like the developed aspect of this is just like, you're getting aliens to come in and you're doing everything you can with those aliens to make them. And they do that. But it's like Carnell Tate, when he comes to the Senior Bowl, whenever that is, will be able to say, I went to the best place for receivers in college football and was coached by the best coach. And like, that to me is
come to the Senior Bowl,
I don't even know.
He may ball out and he's like, I'm good. Yeah. So that's the thing. I mean, they have established this track record and that's probably part of his decision-making process as he figures out, I'm going to stay at Ohio State. Is there's some unknown with other places about, okay, where are they gonna put me in the draft? You know, how are they gonna use me? Like, you know how Ohio State's gonna use you. You know, if you produce at Ohio State, you are going to be drafted very high, that the league is confident in you. So it makes sense, even though, like we said Friday, it's probably pretty hard to turn down because there's probably quite a bit of money flying around. And everybody, I think in their heart of hearts, is like, well, maybe I want to be the number one guy.
Yeah. I mean, it's also too, it's like ego versus finances too. Like, I mean, I don't know. Receivers have that mentality, right? Feed me the rock and all that stuff. I mean, I don't know. Like, listen too, like if you would have gone and taken a bunch of money to go be wide receiver 1 at Georgia, like that would have been great. Like, you know, it's not like, I mean, everybody thinks it's like you're going to Alcorn State or something.
Well, no, not what, Ohio State fans would have been mad, but nobody else would have been. Everyone like, oh,
no, but I'm saying it would have been great for him personally. But I also think it's really cool that he stuck around, because you know what? I'm in a place where continuity is important to me.
Yes.
Like I want to know who's on these teams.
We've both. I don't want to speak for you.
Speak for me.
I have stayed for less money. I have left for more money. I've done both in my career, and each time the circumstances were different, and each time I made the right decision, and I was glad I made the decision. So like it's not as cut and dry.
I have stayed for
throwing you a bunch of money. Let's go get the
I have
back.
Stayed at a job that offered me less money than the new offer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's
because also too, like I'm sure for you as well, like when that happened, you're also thinking, well, is this place that going to get me where I want to be in 12 years?
Well,
like that's the thing that you have to think.
And
like
I can throw some specifics out there. Like there was a job where it was a newer company, and it was a lot more. It was like a video based role. This is back when I was at Sports Illustrated. This is like 12 years ago, and would have required me to move to Chicago. Now, my wife's family lives where we live, which is very important to us. And it was a huge money difference. But we would have had to lose that support system. We had very young children at the time. I was like, I don't think I can do this. And I said, you know what? I have a good job. They're going to give me some more. So I'm going to keep doing that. And it worked. It was great.
What was the job in Chicago?
I'm not going to say, but the company.
Will you tell me off the air?
The company doesn't exist anymore. Let's put it that way. So I think I made the right decision.
Well, then who are you hiding the answer from? Okay,
Well,
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Still exists.
It's personal, but yeah, no, it makes sense. So, I do think it's mature and smart to weigh other things besides what your income is.
So congratulations, Carnell Tate, because I imagine. It's sort of like we said with Jim Knowles, like you're getting bumped up no matter what, money wise. And if this makes you happy, that's even better. That's the best part of it. Like you get to be happy and you get a little more. Like how can you beat that?
Happy and More could be a good buffet.
Happy and More is a great name for an all-you-can-eat buffet.
Yeah,
we got to do that. Can we start a chain of all-you-can-eat buffets called Happy and More? Because I feel like there's not like. Golden Corral has sort of cornered the market.
Hometown Buffet used to be the shit. I don't know what happened to it.
Old Country Buffet, Ryan's, Quincy's. Like seriously, we gotta make this happen.
Hometown Buffet used to have really, really good rolls. Have you been to Hometown Buffet?
I've been to Hometown Buffet.
Are they even open anymore?
I don't know, but the Quincy's had the big fat yeast roll. Last I heard, there were some Quincy's in Florence, South Carolina. There was a Quincy's in Florence, South Carolina still, which is the hometown of Lenora Sellers. I don't know if it's still there. We'll have to do some research. If we have Lenoris on the show, we'll have to ask him if the Quincy's is still open in Florence. But it's, so Happy and More. I like it. With just a big smiley face as kind
of like a Walmart knockoff. Yeah. Do they still use that?
Our smiley face will not be angled like their smiley face. It'll look like the emoji smiley face. You know what'll have you smiling? Open your PrizePicks app, set up your Super Bowl plays, and find out that you got a Patrick Mahomes almost free square. Download PrizePicks, best daily fantasy game in America. Use the code Staples. Play $5, get $50 instantly when you sign up with that code Staples. But yes, for the Super Bowl, which we now know the matchup, Chiefs versus Eagles, Patrick Mahomes has an almost free square. So if he throws for a yard in the Super Bowl and you pick more than 0.5 pass yards, you're going to win that square. Now, the question is, what other squares are you picking? Because PrizePicks, you pick at least 2. The more you pick, the higher the potential payout. So are you going Jalen Hurts, more than 215.5 passing yards? He threw for quite a bit more than that the last time these two teams played in the Super Bowl. Saquon Barkley, 112.5 rushing yards, more or less. That is a massive number for an NFL running back.
He's really good, man.
He's incredible. That first
is
play.
He the best running back of my generation?
Yes.
I mean, I don't even know who else is in contention. LaDainian Tomlinson.
If you made Saquon a slot receiver and told him that was his primary job, he'd be excellent at that too.
Raise your hand if you had Saquon Barkley on your fantasy team and didn't make the playoffs. That'd be me. Okay.
That's brutal.
Go ahead.
That's brutal. Also, Travis Kelce, playoff Travis, 62.5 receiving yards. You decide more or less on that one. I mean, this may be the last time we see Travis in a Super. I don't know. They might. What? He's 35 years old.
I mean, they go every year. So,
they do go every year. But,
I thought you were going to say in a Chiefs uniform.
I am glad that PrizePicks is all ball, though, and we're not talking about more than or less than shots of Taylor Swift during the game.
What would you hit that number at, though?
It's going to, for the Super Bowl,
41?
It's going to be so many. If 41 is, I would go
41.5. So there's no pushes.
41.5. I'd go more than still. But download that PrizePicks app. Use the code Staples when you sign up. Play $5, get $50 instantly, and hit that Patrick Mahomes almost free square for the Super Bowl. All right, Ari, it is now time to talk to one Walter Nolen, defensive tackle from Ole Miss. also former Texas A&M defensive tackle, member of that crazy 2022 recruiting class. And Ari had a proposal for Walter Nolen. But first, we're going to talk about something he said in an earlier interview. He's talking about being the next Aaron Donald. That is bold. Here's Walter Nolen. We're joined by Walter Nolen, Ole Miss defensive tackle. All right, Walter, I saw the interview where you said you're coming to the Senior Bowl to be the next Aaron Donald. You do not say that lightly, I take it.
Nah, it's, I just feel like I'm coming here to dominate. I feel like he came here with the same mindset I kind of got right now. And not a lot of people were talking about him after he left this week. Everybody was talking about him. So
I was at that set of practices, that first practice. Nobody could do anything with him. I talked to some offensive linemen from that year. They were terrified of him. So you've played against a lot of these guys.
Yeah.
So you kind of know what you can do. How do you separate yourself?
Really, this week I just want to separate myself by just trying to do the little extra things, whatever the coaches need to be done or whatever thing I can do, the small thing that can separate me. I can just try and do whatever I can do.
To be a dominant player at your position, you have to have a pretty big mean streak, right? You want to have to crush your opponent's bones into the dust. And you actually seem like a kind of a nice guy. So how do you find that?
Well, first I ain't really a nice guy. I feel like I usually just kind of let it all build up and just go out on the field and let it go. I feel like if any real football player knows that's really your calm space, bro.
So you say let it all build up. Is that before practice, before games? How do you do that?
In this day and age, it's a lot of people that be having mental battles or so you never know what a person's struggling with. So just kind of using that negative energy and turning it to positive energy, and just not trying to let the negative control your day.
So you don't go read me so Ari's bad about reading mean tweets about himself. People are nasty to him online and he fights back. But I have a feeling if he could go to football practice and then take it out on an offensive lineman, it'd be better.
I'd probably still get my ass kicked, Andy.
Probably would.
Yeah. I don't know.
He went up to Jalen Carter a few years ago, and he's like 1 rep against you. What are my chances? And I'm like 0%. So
Walter, here's the scenario. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm just
okay. So I'm playing right guard, and you're lined up against me, and there's a 7-step drop. The quarterback's not allowed to throw the football. Okay. And if I prevent you from touching the quarterback for 5 seconds, I get $5 million.
5 seconds.
I get $5 million. So it's kind of like a adrenaline rush for me, because for you it's just a rep, and for me it's life-changing money. And it kind of reminds me of when a mother picks up a car when their child is right? It's this adrenaline. I mean, think about what would be in it for me versus what would be in it for you. Do you think I could beat you for 1 rep?
Nah, I like your confidence though.
No, I'm just saying it's not even confidence; it'd be adrenaline at that point.
5 seconds?
I don't know. Okay, what's the normal hold time for a drop back? 3 seconds or 2.5 seconds?
For 2.
2.5, 3.
I know, but you don't think I would find that same adrenaline where if stopping this man was the difference between $5 million, I think I would murder somebody.
Yeah, do whatever you got.
Also, yeah, he did say he wasn't a nice guy. He probably wouldn't take it easy on
No,
me.
he would not.
So do you ever picture? So you think that's a 0% chance? What if I had 5 months to train? Yeah,
I got that same 5 months.
I think he's going to use his 5 months more wisely than you.
5 months to train to beat me. Do you ever think make up that people lined up across from you were talking shit about you in your head? Do you ever play that mental game?
Yeah, kinda. I
like the water boy.
I always try to use it as negative because I don't really talk a lot, but some players they just gotta talk. So if a player talk to me, it just make it a long day for them. So really, I just do more playing than talk. You
ever play an offensive lineman that didn't talk but just growled or grunted?
Yeah. What game was that? I think we was playing Arkansas, and the guard just kept on grunting, but Man, at least you ain't talking trash.
What is that, like an intimidation factor? I've never heard of that. What do you mean? Like,
I think that's a question for the offensive lineman. It don't work.
Was it like the tennis players who like grunt when they hit the ball? Like, yeah.
Oh yeah.
That'd be kind of a weird grunt.
Yeah, I don't know if that might take me out of my game a little bit.
Man, nah, I'd be focused on the main thing, just win the game and win your
Depending
rep.
on the grunt. I mean, I don't know what the tone of the grunt is. How much trash talking is happening in the trenches? Because they always show like on TV and stuff like corners jawing at receivers and stuff. Like when you are lined up though, you can't. There's no vantage point of
and people actually have mouthpieces.
Like
inside.
What's it like in the seconds before snap? I mean, maybe everyone's focused because you got to listen to the snap count or whatever. But like, do people talk trash to your face like right before the snap sometimes?
Nah, I feel like it's more like a after the snap thing, like in between the whistles. Like it ain't as big as you see the wide receivers and DBs getting into it, but most of the time, if you're in the trenches, you're gonna hear some trash talk.
So you talk about this next Aaron Donald thing. I'm thinking about the way these practices work at the Senior Bowl. Like everybody comes to watch the one-on-one pass pro. Everybody. What's it going to be like when you're down there and you got a couple guys, but then everybody in the NFL surrounding you?
Really just the same thing I've been doing, but times 10. Relentless effort every rep. I feel like in this situation, our coach, and I kind of like what he said. In this situation, you got to feed your family and the person across from you trying to stop you. So it's really just it's a man versus man. Where we're gonna drop the nuts. Excuse my friend.
Oh no, you can say it on this show. And that's the situation Ari just explained to you. Except it's not man versus man with you and him. It's man versus.
I'm saying like your life goes on to be the same either way. Whether you win the rep or not, you'll be fine. Like to me, it's the difference between that and 1994 Mercedes SL 500.
If I lose the rep, it'll be crazy.
I think you would drop out of the draft. Like you'd go from first round to undrafted free. If you lost a rep to him in one-on-one pass pro,
would be hurt.
No, but what if the only person watching was the person paying me and nobody would ever know? Like you had no motivation. Like the only motivation on my side is
you gotta listen though. You gotta listen. I feel like you still gonna go tell somebody like you still gonna go tell somebody you beat me.
He's tweeting it out right after.
No, it's like I'm just saying. Like,
I beat Walter Nolen in a rep.
If me beating you didn't have an impact on your future, like, and it had all the impact on my future, I would have the adrenaline in that scenario. And I'm not a small guy. Like, I mean, like I'll lay you out. I mean, if I'm being honest.
Every time I see that football, I don't know. It just automatically
turns on. What's crazy, Andy? Like, it seems like yesterday, but remember when everybody was just like maniacally following your recruitment? Yeah. And like where your family was moving and like where you were going and all that stuff. Like, can you take me back just a few years ago to what that was like? And, kind of just like how different things have maybe been now?
Coming out of high school, I was kind of highly recruited. I feel like compared to like the high school level and going to college, I feel like they kind of forgot about me. But I feel like that's why I'm here. I feel like that's why a lot of players here, honestly. But in high school, more attention, more people want to talk to you, more everything, honestly. And I kind of. Not saying I didn't like it, but I kind of enjoyed the little quiet time I got, in college. So.
Was there pressure being part of that Texas A&M class that everybody was talking about?
Nah, it was never no pressure, Besides, I mean, everybody gonna talk, but it's the same thing we've been doing since we were little. So I don't really feel like there's no pressure.
I mean, I know that everyone's direction changed, but at the time, I think the stat, and you might correct me if you know it, Andy, was 18 top 100 players.
It was 7 top 100 defensive linemen alone.
Yeah. I mean, like, what was it like when you were headed there? Like, did you think that was going to, obviously you did, but like think that was going to go differently?
Man.
Because we were talking about Natty and stuff. I mean, I don't know about I was, because I was like, you don't sign a class like that and not win, Yeah,
I ain't gonna lie. Honestly, that kind of hurt. I kind of wish I had things were a little different and I ended up finishing my career in them, but so God got a plan for everybody, and maybe it wasn't that time for us to win the Natty, but we thought it was, but God got the plans for us.
How was that last year at Ole Miss? How did that change your trajectory?
I mean, I feel like I kind of went in my third season. Well, going to Ole Miss especially, I just felt like it was kind of like that time to like start waking people back up and just trying to remind them of who I am and who I'm going to be in the future.
Do you feel like you showed in your college experience, 2 years at A&M and 1 year at Ole Miss, what you can do, or do you feel like there's more people need to see?
I feel like there's a lot people still need to see. After the season, I went straight back to the lab. Straight back time to work. I feel like I don't got better on my pass rush a little bit. I don't sharpen up some of my tools. So, I'm just here to show that also.
It kind of feels like, and I don't know if I'm just picking up on this, but just like you're like quietly really, really motivated to try to, get all that attention back that maybe you didn't get from that high school recruitment right now at the most important time of your life.
Yeah, I just I will understand what you said. I felt kind of a little disrespected. I feel like what I do, especially being a smaller defensive lineman in SEC and all, I feel like what I do is kind of hard, especially if I'm getting double teamed almost every snap, and I don't even weigh over 300 pounds. So I'm just gonna continue to play ball, and that's it.
Well, there was a guy. Now you're taller than him, but he was a little under 300 pounds when he came here. And
I already know.
That's right. Next one.
It ain't nothing to be said. Just anybody watching this, just tune in this week.
Walter, good luck.
Thanks so much for being here, Walter.
Thank you.
And if you ever want to, I'm just saying, like, you're going off to the NFL, like you're gonna be in a pretty good position.
I feel like this is the kick of of destiny thing, the rep of destiny. You're gonna get
pros versus Joe's scenario.
Yeah, you're gonna get paralyzed, but it's okay.
Could you imagine though, like if we set that up though, and like even if I got blown up and just filmed
so here's where I'm coming from this, Walter. So I was a walk-on 240-pound offensive lineman at Florida who had to play against first rounders on the scout team.
240.
So I know what it's like to be small and get hit by a first rounder.
Yeah. And
how little time you will actually block that person. So I am laughing my ass off watching the confidence come out by him.
I'm laughing too. I just ain't gonna laugh at his face though.
Talking to the second team honorable mention JV fullback from Cave Creek, Arizona right now. I don't even know if you know it. I'm kidding.
There aren't fullbacks anymore. Thank you,
Walter.
That is Walter Nolen and Ari. I laugh more and more every time I think about the idea of you going against Walter Nolen.
You know that I'm a good company, man. Like I'd do it for the sake of the show.
I know you would. I just don't. I don't think the Senior Bowl would let us do it. I haven't seen Jim Nagy walking around here yet. We're going to ask him though and see if we can just pad you.
Well, during the drills here, they don't wear pads, right?
They do wear pads. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Like so, you always have that like weird like defensive line, offensive line, at least at like recruiting camps, where it's like they're rushing the passer, but they're not wearing.
Yeah,
pads.
those are the
like,
worst videos,
yeah.
By the way. If you think one video of two guys who aren't wearing pads tells you anything about which one is a better offensive or defensive lineman, probably not, unless it's a video of Walter Nolen and Ari, because I can guarantee you that Walter Nolen is better than Ari.
Here's the thing I will say.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I would get hurt. I think
there's a good chance you get hurt.
I think it would be painful and uncomfortable, but like I don't think I would like die. Like it's like if
no,
you're
I
like,
don't think
would you want to like pass protect against Walter Nolen or get punched in the face by prime Mike Tyson? Like it's not the same thing.
No. If you're in football pads, the prime Mike Tyson is like way worse.
And I genuinely understand that I sound ridiculous. And like the question isn't like whether or not I could lock him up. The question is how far can human adrenaline take you?
Because a few of us were talking about it after we recorded the interview. Like, could you cut him? Because if you cut him and he can't scramble that, like, because Walter Nolen's athletic enough that if you cut him, he probably can still get up and get at the quarterback. But if you cut him well enough, maybe.
Well, here's the thing
I think he would just jump you. I think he would just hurdle you like Jalen Carter hurdled that dude yesterday.
The thing that's being lost in this is that when you think about blocking a human being like that, you think about the power and the sheer force. It's the speed.
It's the speed.
Like he would hit me before I even got up.
That's
like
the part,
that's the thing that would suck.
See the hands moving, because you actually can't see their hands moving. It's just a blur. And so you're trying to get your hands on them, and they are doing like 10 different things to your hands before you can get them onto there. And it is
The
It's
only thing I'm
amazing.
questioning though is how far can the human brain take you physically? Like if you are like what's
I think, yeah,
like,
if
how
you're
high
in a-
would the stakes be?
you
Like
can
if it meant
convince
like
your
defending
brain that
my
you're in a-
family.
if you can convince your brain you're in a fight for your life,
Yeah.
maybe. But it's interesting hearing Walter talk about that because obviously you can't ramp up like that every play. Like I don't think the brain can handle that without burning out. But he talks about kind of building that up before he goes into a game or before he goes into a practice situation.
Like in the Water Boy when he pretends
Exactly.
they're making fun of his mama. Yeah.
Exactly. Where's Cletus from from Smokey and the Bandit?
I can't
Who was the
remember.
opposing
I
coach?
can't rember what in his imagination what they were saying to him though. Were they calling him a?
Well, you had the professor that got mad at him. Remember the professor where he said, my mama said the alligator's so mad because he ain't got a toothbrush.
No, I know. Like, I can't remember what the lineman.
So
something about water sucks. It really, really sucks.
By the way, one of the guys who played the offensive line, one of the offensive tackles that Adam Sandler just destroys, that Bobby Boucher destroys, is former Florida Gator James Bates. And he played linebacker at Florida. He's got some great stories from the Waterboy set. Great photos from back then. Yeah, that was I played with a couple of guys who were in that movie. Todd Holland, who played Meanie, the Meanie defensive end from the other team.
Oh, yeah. That guy was scary.
So
you played with that guy?
He was like 2 lockers down from me. He actually signed with LSU as a scholarship guy, came to Florida as a walk-on, as a transfer. And yeah, we were the same workout group. And
was he mean?
No, Todd's like the nicest guy in the world, but he is 6'7". He's bald, red. He's a redhead, but he shaved his head, so he had the red goatee. He's terrifying. And he told us in the locker room one time, he's like, I might be a professional wrestler someday. And then he got hooked in with Sandler and got in a bunch of Sandler movies. So it was pretty good.
I'm trying to remember what he looks like. It's been a long time. So here's the thing. Do you think I would win a rep if like protecting my family was the stakes?
Only if we could get you with like Jeff Stoutland or like a great offensive line coach, and he could teach you to cut him.
I don't know.
That's your only shot.
How many?
You have no shot if you don't cut him.
How many people were like watching the show back when we were at the Athletic? But this originally started with me telling I could do it to Jalen Carter, and like that's probably.
I think Walter found a lot more humor in it than Jalen did.
Yeah, Jalen was like, I would literally murder you. But now he's like doing things.
And he's doing it to actual NFL.
But yeah,
NFL offensive lineman.
I love the arrogance that it takes to like look a NFL prospect who might go in the top few days in the eye and be like, I could lock you up.
It's the Dunning-Kruger effect.
Yeah.
In effect.
You know what my favorite thing about this podcast family though is?
Steve, can Ari have a weapon?
I don't even think that would help.
Nope.
Is like the entire show we're talking, and it's just a Ohio State Michigan debate in the chat right now.
I said it actually before it happened. We were, as the Walter Nolen interview was playing, I said we get one Connor Stallions comment a day at least. And we hadn't had one yet. And now we've had one.
Well, when we got back from the video and you saw me and Andy laughing, that was a legitimate, like, genuine laugh of Dot saying, "We did it, man. We did it."
Dot in the chat is my favorite because Dot
we really did it.
Dot never gave up hope. Dot came on right after Ohio State lost to Michigan and was like, "It doesn't matter. Winning the Natty, not getting stopped." Dot was a true believer the entire time.
We did it, man.
And I appreciate I appreciate Dot.
And I love that he is feeling that a week later. Like usually like the euphoria of winning the national title lasts for a few days. Not that it's not a memory you keep forever, but like that is like something that you would say like a minute after the game's over.
Yes.
Like he's like riding the wave till a week into
the
this.
Thing is,
it's
Dot a minute after Michigan beat Ohio State was like, Ohio State's winning the Natty. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, they're gonna win the Natty. Well, he was probably right. But listen, very busy week here, Andy.
Yes.
Was a really fun episode. Thank you to Walter Nolen for coming on the show, and of course now is an important week in your life. So good luck to you in your pursuit of being the Aaron Donald of this event.
I cannot wait to see what he does because, like I said when we had Jim Nagy on the last time, the one-on-one pass pro drills at the Senior Bowl are the most intense because it is guys actually fighting for money. Like that's the best way to describe it because you can make or break yourself in about a 5-minute span.
And I think the thing that you said during the interviews that we've done today is that the practices are more important than the game. I know they show the game on TV, but what you do,
on TV now too.
yeah, with the NFL Network,
yeah.
I guess we just have to wasn't the combine in like a month?
But this is so much better than
but
combine.
I'm saying like we have to change our brains into NFL draft mode, and like I would like to hear from you guys too of like, how interested are you in the draft, and how much do you feel a connection to your favorite players once they leave your school? Like, I mean, like in the past, like my thought was once they're gone, they're on to the next people. But I do think that there is a connection. And
I also look at the draft as a recruiting tool. Like what did we say about Brian Hartline earlier in the show? Like Brian Hartline, what his players have been able to do in the draft, and then once they get in the NFL, reflects directly on him.
You know who the perfect litmus test for that is, like a guy like Jalen Milroe.
Yes.
Who might not be the most popular human in Tuscaloosa at the moment.
Yes.
But at the same time, are Alabama fans like on the edge of their seat hoping he can play himself into the top end of the second round?
That's
like,
a
is
great
that what's
question
happening right now? Like, I don't know.
I think it's probably
so
a split.
I
think it's a split opinion on Jalen Milroe.
Like Jalen Milroe goes out to be like Jalen Hurts one day.
Yeah.
And so they can claim him. Like, is that a thing that like, revs your engine in the offseason as we're gearing up towards spring football? I don't know. But the best thing about it is just being able to talk about college football with people who just left college football is always fun. So happy to be here in Mobile. There's some tanker over there that weighs like 500 million.
We'll take Ari on the battleship later.
Is 500 million? Yeah.
I have no idea how much.
What do you think the over under on that tanker was?
I don't know. I'm just gonna take you to Felix's fish camp. We'll eat some turtle soup, and we'll look out at all the container ships and battleships.
What's turtle soup?
Soup made with turtles.
What?
Yeah. You never had turtle soup before?
You mean like you're eating turtle?
Yeah.
What? Turtles are like kids' pets.
I mean, if you find one on the side of the road, sure, but they're quite tasty.
Look me in the eyes right now and tell me you've eaten turtle?
Yes, I've eaten turtle.
Let's wrap this thing up.
I'm no Xavier Legit. I'm not, I think I've had squirrel.
Is that like actually a thing that we're going to go eat today? Because I'm not going to get that.
We might eat turtle. I might let you eat some of my turtles.
I'm going to get chicken fingers. And I'm going to dip them in ketchup.
Yeah. When in Rome, order chicken fingers. We'll talk to you tomorrow.